this is Peak Entertainment and we're back again, and here now we have another video for you, and we're going to take a look back at the World War II epic movie The Thin Red Line and ask where it stands in the great pantheon of World War epics. The film itself, released on December the 25th, 1998, certainly has an established renowned cast with the likes of Caviezel, Sean Penn, Nick Nolte, John Cusack, Woody Harrelson, Elias, Koteas, John Travolta and George Clooney, and the film itself was directed by renowned filmmaker Terence Malik, this being his first film in over 20 years since The Days of Heaven back in 1978. Now this movie itself is an adaptation of the novel of the same name written in 1962 by James Jones. It already had a movie adaptation before, which was released in 1964. And as per that movie, this film here is a fictional account of the Battle of Mount Austin, which was part of the Guadacanal campaign carried out by US military in the Second World War. The main mission of the infantry is to claim the Henderson field from the Japanese soldiers. Now as the film progresses, we see both the physical and psychological experiences endured by the soldiers, the pressures that they come under, and the debates that they have over the cause and whether the war itself is worth fighting. We see constant flashbacks and reflections over their loved ones, and much pondering over what could be within the future. Now when looking back at The Thin Red Line, it certainly has all of those elements of a great epic movie. The scale, the cinematography is all there to see. So many times it's a beautiful looking movie, and you also do get a lot of combat scenes after around the first 30 to 35 minutes. And whilst these sequences are not quite as graphically violent or hyperkinetic as other war films, there's still an intensity and tension amongst them. There's a real composure and sophistication in terms of the direction, showcasing all of the fierce battle. Now we do also have to mention once more the great composer Hans Zimmer, and his musical score for The Thin Red Line remains amongst his finest work. Hitting so many of those emotional tones and giving out a sense of real beauty and elegance and sadness and atmosphere, it really is amazing work, and I think the film would have been far lesser without the music involved. It truly gives the movie that cinematic sweep, and overall is a great job from one of the best composers within all of movies. Yet for all of the great elements, there remains something missing within this film. Some key attributes that deny it the true greatness that it seemingly aspires to reach. We could very well say that the movie is all surface level and nothing else. And that might seem inflammatory, but once we get over all of the beautiful aesthetics and musical score, what do we really have to support this film? Plot, for the most part, is pretty much directionless. There's no end goal or final strike for victory, there's no main antagonist, no journey or development. It's purely about experience, and to be fair, many war movies also adopt this approach in order to gain far more credibility and a certain realism, to try and make the story a bit more than just the good guys versus the bad guys. Now whilst all of this is understandable and certainly gives a lot of merit, as a viewing experience it can definitely be frustrating. As you watch this film, you wonder where exactly is it heading, or what's the point it's trying to make? Why exactly are we still invested in its story? Whilst it is important to try and grasp the experience of war, there still has to be a purpose to the overall story. It can't just be all combat and contemplation and nothing else. And after a while the film starts to lose you because of this, and dare I say gets, if not boring, then certainly a bit ponderous. Now what compounds this even more so is the lack of a lead character. In the beginning of the film it seems that Caviezel's private wit is certainly going to be the central protagonist. But after the opening sequences, he kind of disappears away from the film, and he doesn't really come back into play until 2/3 in. And he's not really that much of a presence to really draw you into the story. Not in the same way that Charlie Sheen was in Oliver Stone's Platoon, or Tom Cruise also in Oliver Stone's Born on the 4th of July. Now without question, the strongest character within the whole movie is Nick Nolte's Lieutenant Gordon Tall. A well-experienced veteran who still believes in the fight and wants to live for the combat and the battle and the victory. He's all hard in intensity and fire, very much typical of what we come to expect from Nick Nolte, and the movie definitely would have benefited so much more had it been centered around his character. Because when you look at all of the other established actors within the film, they really do feel underutilized. Whether we look at Sean Penn, Elias, Koteas, or John Cusack, all of these could have been potentially great characters and integral to the story, but they all feel like they're just in it for a bit part. Both in the beginning and the end of the movie, we get even more headline names such as John Travolta and George Clooney, who are literally in the film for about 1 to 2 minutes. And it really feels like such a waste, almost as if they couldn't afford to have these actors for more than one scene. And as certain characters die within the battle, you don't really feel that sadness that you should do. Any emotion is really carried more so through the music rather than the attachment to the characters. And it really is strange on how a movie can seemingly have so much, yet at the same time feel also empty and vague, feeling very much more like an art house war movie with all of the beauty and none of the heart or emotion. So when we go on to the movie's overall release, and it was somewhat of a mild success, grossing over 98.1 million from a budget of around $52 million. The movie succeeded far more critically, with many critics praising the cinematography and musical score and also editing. The film overall was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, including both Best Picture and also Best Director. Primarily, it lost out to Steven Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan, also released in the same year. Now that World War epic enjoyed so much more mainstream and cultural impact, and The Thin Red Line really got lost in the shadow of that film. And whilst it's an interesting comparison between both movies, and certainly that debate is worthwhile for another day, audiences overall found Saving Private Ryan much more spectacular and much more consistently impressionable and compelling. Maybe it has a certain poise and elegance that's somewhat superior to Saving Private Ryan. I do think overall that Steven Spielberg's epic is probably the superior film, again just because it has much more of a compelling plot. And it's that element that really, I think, stops Thin Red Line from really reaching that upper echelon in terms of the truly great war films. As mentioned before, I would put Saving Ryan above this. Also the same with the likes of Black Hawk Down, Platoon, and also Born on the 4th of July. But that's not to say that Thin Red Line still isn't a fine example of how to really craft a visually beautiful film, and to an extent it does capture the harsh realities and brutalities of war. Visually looks great, and of course it has one of the truly great musical scores from Hans Zimmer. So there's a lot to be credited for this film. I just feel overall it just lacks that real heart, that real emotion on a character level and also a story level, and that's what I think holds The Thin Red Line back from truly being one of the greatest ever war movies ever to grace the big screen. So there's my overall thoughts and feelings when looking back at The Thin Red Line. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you have any other movies or films that you'd like to see me cover within the channel, then also drop me suggestions within the comments, and I will see if I can provide further commentary for you on that subject matter within the future. Please also hit the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very, very soon.